Kum Lenin about Gemara. We are up to the Pei Daled Amid Aleph, and we were talking about being bitten by a mad dog, or you're rubbing against a mad dog. So we already learned about the antidote for rubbing against a mad dog. You just take a mad dog. You just take your clothing off, strip your clothing, and toss it away. What do you do if you got bitten by a bad dog? Says the Gemara, Mayis might sorry. The noch is like Mayis. You said before they get bitten by this mad dog, you will die. Maitakante, what should you do? So he said to Mama, buy a nace and moshcha the apa dikra. Bring the skin of this of some wild cat, a male wild cat. The nichtavala. We had some similar gemaras in other places as well. Brach is another place where how do you talk to these demons? And you write in it, I know Planya Bar Palnisa, I am so and so, the son of this particular woman. Amashcha the Ape Dikra, Kasivna Loch, I'm writing on this skin here, Kansi Kalidus. Well, that's what that means. Anula Kandi Kalidus. Koko Shem Svokis, Amen Salah. And then you take off these clothing, the Lekvarinu. Cover it and you bury it. You leave it there for a year. And then you take it out. 12 months later, you burn it. And then you take the ashes and you spread them around on the roads. And the process and during these 12 months, when your life is hanging in the balance, when you drink water, drink with a straw or a cup of straw. Dilma chazi, we don't want plastic. Dilma chazi bebua because maybe you will see, what do you call it? You'll see a shadow of the demon, and you'll endanger yourself. Kihod Abba Bar Marta, Abba the son of Marta was his mother's name. Who Abba Bar Mayuna, that's his father's name. Sometimes we call him after his mother, sometimes his father. Of the leime gufsa the dava, and the mother made him a golden straw for that very reason. Obviously, he's bitten by mad dog. Says the Gemara, what's this last sickness that we're talking about? That we'll be putting Sam on Shabbos. This is what it is. It's called Savdina. Rashi says it's a sickness that starts from your teeth and works its way down to your intestines. So he went. We had a similar story, and it's a bothersome story. We will have it. Went to this woman who was a matriarch. And she was, I guess, from the aristocrats of the lay meals. She made some kind of a cure for his teeth. Chamisha or Shabbat, Thursday and Friday. He said to her, what about Shabbos? I need something as well. She said to him, you don't need anymore. You're cured. So he said to her, what if I do need it? What should I do? Give me the recipe. She said to him, swear to me you won't reveal to anybody my secret recipe. He swore to her, but he said, I will not reveal it to the God of the Eden. Okay. Then Nafik Drosha, he gave a drosha once in yeshiva, and he told in that drosha he gave over the recipe. It doesn't make sense. He just swore to her. How can he go and breach his own shua? I said I won't reveal to Hashem, but I will reveal to Hashem. Are you playing around like this? They'll say we are devious, cunning, dishonest. The Megalo Mikora, he told her from the beginning. Rashi says Megalo Mikora is right after she gave him the recipe. He said to her, by the way, I'm going to tell everybody. So what? Rashi says, "Who shy to go? That's what I meant. Well, how does that remove the chil Hashem? It's even worse. He's such a smart aleck. It's like having more shoes that the guy, gave the cane over to the other guy and had the gold coins in there. I didn't swear false. It's no different. How in the world does this resolve the problem of chil Hashem? Then you want to know why Goyim think that Eden are dishonest. This is exactly what's happening right now in the world about these patents for these cures that could cure the whole world. And the question is whether you should give it up for free or whether you should reveal it, online, or you can charge for it. Obviously, people have this sickness up. Felt that it's a must to share the rest of the world, and she wanted to get paid for it. She didn't want to reveal the secret. I don't know. Does it explain how it's not a Chil Hashem? If he would have told her before he made the shua, by the way, I make sure I want you to know, I'm really going to tell everybody one thing. But he told her after he made the shua, I just tricked you. So therefore, it's not a Chil Hashem. I don't understand. To give an explanation there?
So they say he can't do something according to some of the ones.
Yes, you committed suicide. We even had that. So that's how's that better?
That's all. They just got to be shaman.
So why isn't it a Chil Hashem? I don't know. My of the lay, what exactly is the recipe? Now that we know already the recipe, tell us also. It's yeast, water from yeast, and Shem Zayis, olive oil, and melech and salt. Olive oil and salt and yeast together, that's the potion. The Yoma says not the water from the yeast, but but rather yeast itself. Shem Zayis and the olive oil and salt. Yeah, well, a longer secret. Ravashi, I don't know what this disease is, but I'm sure there's somebody called some new cures for it since then. Ravashi says, Moshcha de Gatfa de Avza. You know what it was? They gave the fatty part of the marrow of a small bone, the tip of the wing. And that's and you put that on the side of your temples, on your temples. So I tried all, nothing worked. Until this nomad or this Sheikh told me, I see Kashi says let's bring the pips of olives. So that didn't mature a third. Burn it in the fire. On a brand new shovel. And then go to then what you have to do is you have to smear this on your gums. This is a gum disease, but it's a very serious gum disease. And you smear this on your gums. So it's clear to me that every generation you need different medicines. Biechon had one medicine. Abaye, a couple generations later, it didn't work. You had from another medicine. Of the Hachiv, so Itaki did that and it worked. My havi. So how do you get this disease in the first place? So he says, if you eat hot challah, hot bread, which I used to love, it's bad for you. That's what causes this disease. Or umshiyure kosa dahasna. Kosa dahasna is a term we have many times in Gemara. It's fish that is it's fish you coated with flour and it's fried in its own sauce, its own fatty juice. In other words, you don't put any oil, any other additives. This is its own thing. And if you eat the remnants of that, it can cause these gum disease. And Rashi's shuri means it stayed overnight. What are the telltale symptoms? You put anything on top of your tongue, your gums. If the blood begins to flow, the moment you scrape your gums or anything else, the blood begins to flow. The gum disease. Rabbi Yechon actually did on Shabbat itself, and it was cured. Now the question is in our Mishnah, the Tanakama argues with him about the chatzar covered by a dog, a mad dog. Doesn't argue with him regarding the tzavdina, but regarding the other putting Sam on Shabbos. And the question is whether the Tanakama argues or the Tanakama actually agrees in that case. So Rabbi Yechon, because he cured himself on Shabbos, believes, as we'll soon see in the Gemara, that the Tanakama agrees when it comes to gum disease, you can do the medicine on Shabbos, which means even cut the different herbs that you need, whatever else you need for this medicine. Or do whatever it takes. Rabbi Yechon, he's following the lone opinion. Yes, as he's talking about Masya. It's much more dangerous because it starts in your gums and works all the way down to Menemayim. Today we know that teeth can also go to your heart. You know, teeth is very important to maintain your teeth, the hygiene of the teeth. It seemed it sounds like you're following Rabbi he's the one who said you'll have to do this on Shabbos. I say no, that they're only arguing on the case of the mad dog. They're not arguing the case of the gum disease. That's how we look at the Mishnah. And we need to araya for that, because we read the Mishnah, even though the Tanakama doesn't expressly argue in the case of Tzavdina, but it sounds like it's bunched together. So anyway, I bring it right from Bryce. It says, Misha obviously Iraq, and somebody has jaundice, machilin oisai psachamar, you feed them the flesh of a donkey, even though straight. It's sakana, and you have to give it to them. Me should not you're bitten by a mad dog. You give them again from the liver, even though it's treif, if it's own liver from that very mad dog. Oh, isn't by a snake? You're supposed to try to catch the snake if they bit you, and so use the venom for that very snake. I think by spider the same thing. Supposed to, somehow or other, the snake has some kind of antidote within itself. If somebody has this gum disease, he says three different things. Come the say be'elu ain't be'elu. When be'elu, just say they should just say ain't be'elu. We disagree by saying be'elu means some of these don't and some of them do. Be'elu muti my line sam. The first two don't, but the last one sam. We agree with them that it does work. Well, that's the port of Echad. Maybe the other way around. Maybe no. Maybe it's to remind another case altogether. That's I even mentioned. Those people who let blood for this disease called sarunichi on Shabbos. I'm not sure what that disease exactly. What's the disease of sarunichi? Sarunichi. Rashi uses a bunch of words that none of them. And what does Quincy mean? Almost as good as Rashi. Rashi says astrangalian. Maybe something to do with strangling. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Quincy's a bit like a tonsillitis. It's an abscess in the at the back of the throat.
Gary, it's good that we have here a doctor.
And he's not even a neonatal throat specialist.
Close enough. But so then strangling is right. You strangle in your throat. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It makes sense. The Tanya we learned shloisha dvarim. In fact, it makes sense. It has nothing to do with they agree on the gums, the teeth. It's talking about letting the blood for this particular Quincy disease. Because we learned the Tanya shloisha dvarim three things. Number one is makizin dam l'saruchi b'Shabbos. You're allowed to let blood for the disease called saruchi on Shabbos itself proper. If you're bitten by a mad dog, you give him from the bottom of his what do you call from his liver. Even though straight, and you have the gum disease, Matin le'sam b'Shabbos. The Chacham say be'elu ein behem mishurafur, be'elu mutim my lab, lavatati basraisa. Be'elu means the last two we agree with you, but the first one, when it comes to the letting for the blood for this Quincy disease, we agree with you. So we see Rabbi Yechon is wrong. So Rabbi Yechon will defend himself. Like no. No, the first two we disagree with you. We don't believe letting the blood works for Quincy either. What we do agree with you is the gum disease. The one that we agree with you is the gum disease. Tashma coming in, still don't have any yet conclusive proof one way or another, but I'm agree with Masi or not. Coming in, if a woman who is pregnant smelled something and has intense cravings. I was telling you last time the Machlek is the Bahag and the Ramban, so the Rosh explains further that the machlekes is what happens if the cravings are definitely from the baby in the womb. Or not forget the cravings. What about if the baby in the womb needs medical help urgently, but the mother is all right? Are you like Machal Shabbos for that or not? In other words, this whole thing here, like I said, craving we're allowed. Is it because we're worried about the mother, even though it comes from the Uber, or even from the Uber? The question is, are you Machal Shabbos for an Uber? Because the child is not yet alive, is not yet in this world.
But if you kill a child, it's considered.
In a case, let's say, in theory, that the mother won't die.
So I'm saying if you kill a child, it's considered killing.
No, by the Yid, we don't get the Chai Misa. An Uber, Goy is Chai Misa for abortion. The Yid is much lighter. We'll have a Sanhedrin Mitzvah. Ben say to me. Sorry, no, test there.
That's why there's this cooperation with the Catholics in terms of life issues. It's an Asian order, but they can't cooperate on issues of
abortion. We're more lenient. Yeah, touch back here. You give her food until she restores her life. And says it right there. If a mad dog bit you, give him teeth from the liver. But PVM gum disease, this we agree here, not here. What do you mean bazu? Bazu high. Which case do they disagree with? Which case do you agree with? On the case of Pshita. Ubra, everyone agrees that you give her whatever she needs to restore her life. Mi ika lemand amad deloy is there somebody who argues a masim and chedesh, or a masim and chedesh says for an Ubra you give her whatever she needs. So everyone agrees you give her an Ubra whatever she needs. Elalabasam. There's another case that we agree. Isn't it the case of the gum disease? Shmamin of the gum disease we agree. Rashi says, "Masis Namalek." In fact, we bring it right from our very Mishnah, because our Mishnah first they have the argument on the Kamar Masr Chedesh, and then it says, "But Oy Domar Masr Chedesh." There's another case. There's Gambazis Matin L'Sam B'Shabbos that you're allowed to on Shabbos put in the medicines. I'm talking about what you're doing in Isa Deraisa, but like Pligir Rabban Leleh, Rabban Lovin argue. The Misa the Pligir Rabban Leleh. If you want to learn the Rabban argue on all the cases that Masr Chedesh raises in our Mishnah, then Le'arvinu v'Lisninu v'Lifligu Rabban B'Seifa. Let them put all the cases together and then say, but that's the Rabban don't agree. Shema Mina, they're only arguing in the first cases of the mad dog. They're not arguing in the case of the gum disease. It's that dangerous. So we say they're suffering the fashas, and the reason why you're allowed to is because they're suffering the fashas. Says the Gemara. Once you suffer in the fashas, we know you do whatever you want. Why is the Mishnah didn't have to add the words and every suffer in the fashas doicha Shabbos? We're talking about a case. The chiddush here is what happens if the person is going to live definitely at least another week. So you might think, well, I'll wait till Motzei Shabbos before I do anything. Why should I be mechal this Shabbos and next Shabbos? Let's wait till Motzei Shabbos. I'll reduce the chil Shabbos I'm doing. Even if it involves other Shabbos. Hey, Chidami, for example, they assessed him that he will live. The doctor said that you have to give him medicine for 8 consecutive days. So we're talking about a case where definitely today he's not going to die. We know that he's going to live at least another 8 days. So maybe shouldn't be mechal the Shabbos, wait till tonight. And the suffix is, if you don't do anything today, then maybe he'll die next Shabbos. So then, so what do you go? You have the time now. You have the Yoma Kama Shabbat and Mount. Never thought why, since it's only a suffix next Shabbos, he'll die because if you don't do today, so, and today definitely not going to die. Maybe we should wait till tonight. Why be machal straight out? We don't say that. There's a fascinating chakira and argument in Acharayim, and I didn't have a chance to look it up. I was remembering gives the youngster. What happens? A guy it's 9 o'clock Shabbos morning, and the doctors say that if you do this and this and this for him, he will live maybe to instead of dying in an hour, he'll die in 5 hours. But regardless, he's definitely going to die this Shabbos. But you're going to give him an extra few hours of life. You learn Mechal Shabbos then. And if you learn, we'll see more later. How do you know Pekuach Nefesh? If you learn from Chalel Shabbos Achas, Rishul Sheyishmer Shabbos Harba, it doesn't apply here. He's not going to keep any more Shabbos. If the other reasons, Chaybem and all the other reasons, then maybe even a few hours they have to give him. Interesting argument.
Specifically Shabbos or other mitzvahs as well?
All the mitzvahs, yes.
So if you can do more mitzvahs in that house, then...
He's in his deathbed. He's not doing anything.
Theoretical question.
True. No, people are dying. People are dying. The doctor definitely is not going to make it. And he's, he has hours left to live. Are you allowed to be Mechal Shabbos to give him, a few extra hours or whatever? There's another machlek, for example, in Mishnah Berurah. When we say, let's say you're allowed to extinguish a fire for somebody who's a guy's a Masukah, he's dying, and you're allowed to extinguish the light. According to that, but you're only allowed to extinguish the light if by extinguishing the light, it helps him out medically. That that if you don't extinguish the light, he can't sleep and he might die fast sooner. But the Mishnah Berurah, if a guy is dying, if he wants to extinguish the light, not because there's a lot of that this is in any way going to help him not die any quicker or whatever it is, but if he's a dying person, you're Mechal Shabbos whatever he wants, regardless. Very says Machlekes. Taking about it further, Tanam we learned Mechamin Chamin L'Chel B'Shabbos. You're allowed to heat up hot water on Shabbos. Bein Hashkais give him to drink. Bein LeHavaroisai, whether to make him healthier or stronger. We're talking about, let's say, to bathe him. Not only if he's going to die this Shabbos and it's going to prevent it, even prevent another Shabbos. So let's wait till Motzei Shabbos. See, maybe he'll get better without us intervening. Don't make any cheshbonos. Heat up straight away. Makes a suffix the first day of the Shabbos. Even if the suffix is not this Shabbos. This Shabbos definitely live. The suffix is maybe next Shabbos will die. That's good enough to mechal this Shabbos. Don't use a goy. Don't use a kusi because people will think that only that we try to mitigate the Easter will only get them. And then next time somebody is sick and you wait for a goy, you won't have a goy, the person will die. Do it. Big machlekes are showing what Gedoyle Yisrael means. Most of Gedoyle Yisrael means an adult. The Rambam Gedoyle Yisrael means a nasi, a rav. After the Tamid Chamish God, they show everybody that don't think they were taking Shabbos lightly. This is what the halach is. The ain't no even because somebody wants to be frum. What did I'm say? They want somebody to be frum on Shabbos. No, hakim l'chal Shabbos. Anybody is a Russian. Do not say do these things not via women. Rashi here is very problematic. Rashi learns as follows: don't use women to save somebody. Don't use kusim to save somebody. And when will we use women? Only to combine as an opinion. Two people say you got to do this chil Shabbos, and three say you don't have to. And then comes along a woman and says, "Let's we do have to." So now it balances out 3-3 and stuff in the first. That's what Rashi means. A shame of how very difficult. Apart from the fact we just learned before in the Gemara that if two say you have to save somebody, you can have 100 and say you don't. We say today kameya, make it today, whatever, even though it's an umdana, and stuff in the first other thing. What do you need the woman for at all? And as the divorce says, what if a woman is a doctor and she says, or if a woman can help, of course she should help. What's the difference? So he learns, he has a little different gifts to the divorce, and his gift is, don't say, the ain, I mean, the yazar, I'll take what the lawyer. Don't say that we should do with noshim dafka and kusim and mestav. Don't say that. Because women are just as responsible for everything else, and they're just as qualified. They're a doctor, they're just as qualified as anybody else. They're not a third opinion. They give you the first opinion, and listen to them. It's an interesting machlokes.
Isn't this the issue with the kusim because you couldn't trust her because there was this tension between the kusim and the kusim?
Yeah, but a lot of times when the Gemara says kusim, it's really akum, but because of the censor they put in word kusim. So it's something you have to know what it means when it says kusim. And others are trying to say the pshat is that if you say woman because Nashim died in Kalos, they're going to think, why are you asking a woman to do that a man? Maybe because it's one step, we're trying to mitigate the Issa, and maybe they think for a woman the Issa of Shabbos is a step less than a man, or something I think. And therefore, people are always going to look for ways of not having to be Machal Shabbos to save somebody. We don't want that. We want to open carte blanche, you have to save somebody's life. That's why you shouldn't do women. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but people might think, oh, why Dafka asking a woman? Okay, don't learn. The fact never but Rashi is difficult to understand. Unless Rashi lived in a society where women did nothing, and therefore, he's talking in more practical terms. Well, the mefakim pikuach never b'Shabbos. You go ahead and you save somebody on Shabbos. Anything required, but the more if you do it at alacrity, the better it is. And you don't need permission. Okay, so I'll give you a number of examples. You saw a kid fall into the sea. You take a net and you save the kid. But the sooner you do, the better. You don't have to go run to a Rav and ask a shayla. And even though you're capturing fish, you're still allowed to. Whether you're allowed to actually have intention to catch fish or not. And from the Gemara's lashon here, the afagav the kotzai kavod, it sounds like if it happened to be that you benefit at the same time, that's all right. Not that you're allowed to go say, you know what, I'm going to catch a kid, I'm going to catch a bunch of fish as well. I'll do that. That's what it seems from here. We'll soon see Gemara a little later. It says differently. You saw a kid fall into a pit. You dig it up, and even though you have a chal Shabbos, you don't take the second darga, even though you're creating steps, which is boin rosh. And the third example, you saw a kid, the door slams behind the kid, in front of the kid. You break the door down. The kid locked in the closet is very scary. When I was in second grade, we were very, very young in my days. It was third grade, second grade, like 4 years old. The punishment was the teacher used to put us in a closet alone, and he used to say, "The boogeyman will eat you up." You can't imagine how scary it was. I still remember today. And the Gemara says right here, putting a kid in a closet is a very daunting. Well, what you do is you break the door down. And you take them out. Not sure exactly what the Chilul Shabbos here is. If you break the door down, it's mikalkol. Sorry, midrabanan. The other examples are mahatayda. Here is an example only midrabanan. So what's a chiddush? The Gemara will say what each chiddush is, but the Isa here is different. Now, and that's what the one has to add over here. That even though you didn't just break the door down, you broke it and you made sure that all the boards were equal size. You can use it as firewood, or you can exactly. But here, then it's clear the kamechaven. So then you go back to the other one by the fish. Maybe become mechaven there as well. What's the difference? But you're allowed to be mechaven to do a malacha. Since once you're doing a malacha, The chiluk would be really if it's duchuya hutra. If it's duchuya, then you're not going to have anything else. You just got to do limited to whatever you're doing. If it's hutra, there's no Easter Shabbos here. So why is no Easter Shabbos? I can do whatever I want. B'shas ma'aseh. I mean, it seems that would be the machlokes.
You're allowed to put it wherever you want.
Once you have it in your hand, but you picked it up in a legal way.
So you're
So
you're
go for them,
breaking
come
it in a legal way, and then you.
Yeah, but this is okay. True. Another thing is mechabin. You're allowed to extinguish the fire. Mafsikin, and you're allowed to put buckets of water to stand in the way of the fire. Before Shabbos, so the fire doesn't come and burn the house down. And the quicker you do it, the better it is. Ain't certainly vision. Now, Taser already asks if you're allowed to extinguish a fire. You got to tell me you're allowed to put buckets of water. What? Of course, that's a much. We had more kalkisa. That's a much smaller aveda. Taser said we're talking about bringing the bucket through a Rosh Hashanah. And that's the chiddush. Because I would have thought that maybe you're allowed to extinguish the fire, but so far to bring from somewhere else outside through a rabbit to bring it there, maybe you're not allowed to, because you're doing two avedas. Why is that worse? You're doing hoitzah and hachnasa. Mashengin over here, and you're extinguishing, and you're doing not kibbutz, you're doing gram kibbutz. Another thing is the kibbutz itself is only midrabban. Kibbutz is only midrabban. Every kibbutz is a malacha she'en tzich l'gufa. Unless you doing it to benefit the gufa, to benefit the item itself. The only two examples we have of kibbutz, which is ma'atayda, you extinguish the fire on wood, and you want the wood to become coal. Let's say you're a smithy, you want to make a barbecue. If there's open flames, it ruins the meat. It ruins whatever you're trying to melt with it. But if it's a coal, then it doesn't burn it. Doesn't make it black. So that's when it's melacha shichel gufa. You need it for the wood itself. Or you have a wick, and you're lighting it according to Al Rebbe the first time. According to Mishnah, even the second time, the first time, and then you extinguish it so that it should burn better. Again, you're doing it in order for the fire to burn better on the switch. So that's the tzich for any other case of extinguishing a fire, like saving a house, is really the rabban, because you extinguish a fire not so the house will burn better next time. So therefore,
we put this extra scriptures on it.
Yeah,
so that he's easy to get confused of the
Adam Bol, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. True, but never. You're right. Some say it's only according to Madam Malachis that I said, which is Rabbi Yehuda, and others say that's why this is the most difficult halach on Shabbos. It's holding the Rabban anyway. Look how machmir you have to stand there and watch your house burn down. Only allowed by tzilin, muzzin, the state studies, and all that kind of stuff. We learned all the different things you can do. Difficult, yeah.
So what's the difference here that you can put the fire out?
You can not only extinguish the fire, you can bring the pots and pans from somewhere else, and you're carrying it as well. What they did when they brought the pots and pans somewhere else, and you just put it on the floor like made a wall. So when the fire reaches it, it'll burst, and the water then will extinguish the fire. But you're doing the malach of carrying, and it's a double malach. You're taking out from somebody's house, and you bring it into another house.
But if your house is on fire, you're not allowed to put it out. So what's the difference that here you can put out a fire?
No, you're putting an obstacle. You only boss.
We're talking about in the case where there's a sakana here. Here we're talking about a case where there's a sakana here. That's what we're talking about. Maybe there's somebody in the house trapped in. We're talking now about sakanas. All of these examples are cases where there's something.
But couldn't you say you've always got a suffix? There might be someone in the house.
Oh, yeah, but in your house, let's say, you're right. You could say that if it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Utzricha, what I mean, all these cases. One in all these cases, if you only do the case of the sea with the kids, and maybe swept away, but the time you go to a Rav, the water will sweep them away. Okay, of course you got to save straight away. If you're saying anyway, not going anywhere, maybe you have to go to a Rav and ask a shayla. You have to tell me, go do straight away. Maybe the kid is frightened out of his wits, is sitting there in a dark place in the bottom. If they're sitting behind the door, you could sit on the other side of the door. Play with nuts or something. Play some kind of game while somebody runs to the Rav and asks a shayla. Therefore, we need it. Then mechabel mafsikin. I'm not sure why the two dots there. Mechabel mafsikin. The last case we learned lamali. What do we need that for? The chiddush is tafilo b'chatzar achedes. Even the fire is in the other chatzar, and the people are in the other chatzar, and they're sick. Now, what we're told, Rashi adds the reason why they cannot escape is because either they're infants or they are infirmed. So that it is that you are allowed to put, even though it's another chatzar, you're allowed to. You're allowed to go ahead and do this. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, named Shmuel, says you should know when it comes to Pekuach Nefesh, we do not follow the laws of majority. We said before, even a suffix, we will be machmir, Pekuach Nefesh. So we don't follow the laws of majority. Now the question is, what case are we talking about? Hechidam. Because there's 9 Yidden and 1 guy, Ruby, son the majority of Yidden. Of course you say. Ela Palga, half a goyim, half a Yidden, and somebody, let's say there's a house crashing on one of them, you don't know who it is, something of Fashal Hakul. Half and half, of course you're Makel. What do you tell me about the Ela Aiken? What happened is 9 Kusim Yisrael Echad, 9 goyim and 1 Yid, and therefore Shmuel says, don't follow the laws of majority, go ahead and try to save them. So the Gemara we learned Gemara Ksuvas to have like kavua. If you're fixed or if you're fixed in a certain place, we have there's a halach mesinog because of kavua that if you are in a certain place, you're standing in a certain place, then there's a 50-50 chance it's a yid. We know all we have a rule is once you leave, called a punish, maruah punish. Once you leave, you follow the rules of majority. For example, you don't remember which store you bought. There was 9 kosher the kosher store, 1 treifa store. We don't say you can go ahead and eat it because we'll say the suffix started in the store. You just don't remember which store you bought it from. The suffix started in the store and it was kavua, and therefore came mechzamechzami and straight. But if you found it in the street, then we'll say called the punish, maruah punish. So what's a chiddush here? Even if it's 1 yid, maybe it's like 50-50, and we have to be machman and try to save him. What happened was that they went out, or somebody went out to another courtyard. And then whoever went to another courtyard, the house collapsed on top of the person. And the 9 that were originally there all disappeared. So we don't know who's trapped under that on that collapsed house. And so therefore, let's assume it's a goy. Let's try and say you don't go laws of majority. It's a problem. There's a possibility that you go ahead and save him on Shabbos. So the Gemara is not so. When the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Tisha Kusiv Yisrael Echad 9 going 1 yid boisa chatzah that chatzah mefakin. So if it's in the same chatzah, they're all standing on Shabbos. When the house collapsed on one of them, you try to save them. But the chatzah acheres, if they walk to another chatzah, the name mefakin, because we'll apply the rules. We'll call the parish. Probably is a guy like kasha. Depends. The parish kulum. Since if they all move to the other chutzah, and since in this chutzah we established definitely there's a yid, and they all move to the other chutzah, then again definitely there's a yid in the other chutzah. We are going to try to dig through this avalanche and try to save the person, through all the rubble and everything else. But how the parish mitzvayu? Some people remain behind, and some people move to other chutzahs. So now we apply the rule called the parish. Probably it could, likely it's a goy. We do not do that. Says the Gemara, said that we ignore the laws of Rai, but now we learn all this in the end of the first page. You found a kid lying on the street. Now, let's say it doesn't have the signs of a mums or everything else. It wasn't neglected. If most people in the city, and the question is, what's the status of the kid? If most people in the city are goyim, then kusi. It's a goy. You see here right away, it doesn't mean kusim. It means akum. Vim Rav Yisrael. Most people are yidin, then Yisrael to yid. Mechza, if it's half and half, Yisrael, we're treating like yid. Rav says, when do we say 50-50 like yid? Only that we have to support the kid. To say that he's a yid, he can marry a Yiddish woman, and all that, or that, for example, a kohen. That a kohen, okay, most people, if a kohen should be able to marry this person, you can't say a kohen can marry the person. And then we're talking about the case. We're not talking about a sufi that's a guy. You see, the kid was well kept for, and so on. There's food there, and what do you call it? Now, when it comes to a kohen, we say we need 2 roivs. How does anything more so? You need 2 roivs, 2 compelling reasons to say it's probably a kid is a yid and a kosher kid. For Yisrael, it's enough 1 roiv. Yishmael says lefakeach olav esagal. Shmuel says, no, we're talking about here, do we on Shabbos uncover, go through the rubble to save this person? Not only if there's a raiv yidin, but if it's mechza, what do you call it? We will not save on Shabbos. That's contradictory to what Shmuel said before, that you don't even follow raiv. Shmuel is saying, he's talking about on the Reishiv, most people are goyim. What do you call it? This is what Shmuel's comment is supposed to be. If most people are goyim, it's a goy. Shmuel, and this is what Shmuel is comment. On Shabbos to save someone, rescue somebody. It's not like that. That even if most people are goyim, there's a possibility that this kid is a yid. We are going to be Mechal Shabbos to save this kid, which is consonant to what he said before. He said if most people are goyim, he is treated like a goy. Okay, Pekuach Nefesh is not, but in every other respect, like going. In which respect? I'm gonna pop Lachil Nevelis. You're allowed to give him D treif. Because if a yid, you're not allowed to give treif, even a kid. Here you're allowed to. We have more give almost there. Yisrael, my you say majority, if majority is citizens in this city, a yidin, this kid is treated like a yid. In what respect? Lahachzeloi avodasli is what to I mean, you don't give an aveda back. We'll have him bring him over and you don't give a aveda back to a guy, but to this kid you will. If Rabbi Yisrael, you'll give back to a guy. And by the way, this kid has to still go. Yeah, if this kid wants to be a yid, in the case of Reb Kusim, has to go through Gatus. So now, what happens? Machzi. So you said half and half is a yid. In what respect? In what respect? So the Gemara, Rav said already before that you have to sustain this kid. Amar Lakish as well. Into Nazikin. What the din is as follows: if a goyish animal kills a Yiddish animal or goes a Yiddish animal, has to pay full damages. No such thing as a tam or a mu'at. If a Yiddish animal kills a goyish animal, he's totally potter. We're having more about Kama. That's from the test where they why he's totally potter. We took away from them. We took away from them the total, any debt that we might have to the goyim because of what they gave up the zaymitz and the neich. And if a yid gores an animal, gores another animal, then you have the din first 3 times a tam and the 4th time is a mud. So with this kid over here, the zikin half and half is like yid for the zikin. Hey, what are we talking about? If we gored his animal, why should we pay him? Nice, even if you bring a raya that he's a yid, and he'll take. So Gemara says, and as Rashi says, Kozman, he didn't go through gates. Even Machsi has to go through gates. Kozman didn't go through gates. Why pay him a cent? Like Sicha, the Nokia Tula that he gored us. So half he pays like a yid. Depending if he's a tam or a if it's a tam or a mu'at, tam is generally a quarter, is a half, and Palga namely in the other half he says to us, I said I don't have you bring an that I'm a goy, you want me to pay another shal. I'm a yid, I pay only a tam. You want me to bring a raya that I pay like a tam half. You want me to pay the other half like a goy. You bring an that I'm a goy. But shukar because I'm machza. That's where we